I want you to go back in time for a second. Picture the door frame in your childhood kitchen, or maybe, the hallway pantry.
Oh, yeah.
If you look closely, you can probably still see them. Those little horizontal pencil marks, usually with a date and a name scribbled next to them.
The universal growth chart. It's like an archaeological dig of your own childhood.
It really is. And I just vividly remember the absolute visceral desperation of standing against that wood.
Mm.
Chin tilted up just enough to cheat, but not enough to get caught. Lungs full of air, chest puffed out, just praying that the pencil line would be a quarter-inch higher than last month.
It's a ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it speaks to something pretty deep in the human psyche.
Yeah.
We associate height with, dominance, with athletics, with leadership.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look at Hollywood. Look at who we elect as presidents. That's why how to get taller is consistently one of those Googled health questions year after year.
And that is exactly why we are here today. Welcome to the Deep Dive Lab. We have pulled a massive stack of medical literature, nutrition studies, and sports science papers to answer one single burning question. Can you actually make yourself or your kids taller?
Or is it all just?
Or is it all just written in the DMA code, referencing some Gattaca-style destiny before you're even born?
It is a complex answer, but we have to start with a massive reality check. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news right out of the gate.
Oh no, here it comes. You're going to tell me my gravity boots were a total waste of money.
We'll get to the boots. But first, we have to talk about the 60 to 80% rule. Twin studies and family studies consistently show that in a healthy environment, about 60 to 80% of the variance in height is genetic.
Okay, hold on. 80%. That sounds incredibly discouraging. You're basically telling parents that almost nothing they do matters. Is it really that rigid?
It's a fair pushback. But think of it this way. Genetics provides the blueprint for a skyscraper. It determines the maximum possible height of the building.
The ceiling. Okay.
But the environment, nutrition, sleep, health. That's the construction crew. If the crew goes on strike, or if they run out of steel, that building is never reaching the height on the blueprints.
So the 80% is the ceiling, but the other 20 to 40% is whether you actually hit your head on that ceiling or stop, like 2 feet short.
Precisely. And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are going to explore that 20 to 40% gap. We're going to look at the construction materials, like specific nutrients and sleep cycles. And we're going to debunk the stuff that is total nonsense.
And we're also going to get into the heavy medical stuff later, the injections and hormones that try to rewrite the blueprints. But before we get to the how, we have to understand the how it works.
Right.
Walk us through biology. I think most people imagine bones just sort of stretching out like taffy.
It's a bit more industrial than that. You have to imagine your long bones like the femur in your thigh, not as a single solid stick, but as a shaft with active construction zones at the ends.
Ah.
In medical terms, these are the epiphyses, or growth plates.
Okay, so these are the active work sites.
Right. These plates are made of cartilage. As long as they are open, they are churning out new cartilage cells, which then get calcified and turn into hard bone. That is how the bone lengthens.
Okay.
But there is a biological clock ticking on these plates. And the thing that stops the clock, the thing that fires the construction crew, might surprise you.
I feel like the gym bro answer is testosterone.
Yeah.
Big muscles, big bones.
It's actually estrogen.
Estrogen. Wait, even for boys?
Yes, even for boys.
Yeah.
This is a critical mechanism to understand. In late puberty, estrogen levels rise in both sexes. And estrogen triggers a process called epiphyseal fusion.
Okay.
Essentially, it tells that soft cartilage at the end of the bone to mineralize completely. It turns the construction zone into solid rock.
So wait, girls obviously have more estrogen than boys. Is that why girls usually stop growing earlier than boys do?
That is exactly why. Their estrogen peaks sooner, so their plates fuse sooner. And once that fusion happens, once the door closes, skeletal length is final. No amount of stretching, vitamins, or wishing will open it back up.
So timing is everything. It's a race against the estrogen clock.
It is. And in the literature, we look at 2 specific windows of opportunity. The one everyone talks about is puberty. But the most important one is actually what we call the first 1,000 days.
That's conception to age 2, right?
Correct. This is the foundation. During this period, the body's growing at a velocity it will never repeat again. If a child faces malnutrition or chronic infection during these 1,000 days, they experience stunting. And the data is very clear. Stunting in the first 2 years is almost impossible to fully reverse later.
So that's the basement of the skyscraper? If the basement is small, the tower is small?
Exactly. But let's assume we're past that stage. The second window is adolescence. This is the catch-up phase. It accounts for about 20% of your final adult height.
Okay.
This is where the lifestyle choices, the stuff we can control right now,
Yeah.
really come into play.
Okay, speaking of lifestyle choices we can control, or think we can control, I need to confess something. I mentioned the gravity boots earlier.
Mm.
I actually bought a pair from a catalog in the back of a comic book when I was 14. I'd hang upside down in my garage for 20 minutes a day, blood rushing to my head, absolutely convinced I was going to walk into school looking like an NBA player.
You and thousands, maybe millions of others.
Please tell me I wasn't just wasting my time. Did I get any benefit from that?
We were, and you weren't. We need to distinguish between skeletal height and apparent height.
Okay.
When you hang from a bar or use inversion boots, you are decompressing the spine. You're letting the intervertebral discs expand, kind of like soaking a dry sponge in water.
Like astronauts, right. They come back from space taller.
Exactly. Astronauts can gain up to 2 inches in space because there is no gravity compressing those discs. But here's the catch. Gravity is undefeated. As soon as you stand up and walk around, gravity compresses those discs back down.
So I was taller until I walked to the bus stop.
Pretty much. It's temporary. You aren't lengthening the bones. You're just fluffing up the cushions between them.
Okay. So the hanging myth is busted. Let's flip the coin to the other playground rumor, which was, fear-based, weightlifting.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I heard, don't lift heavy, you'll stunt your growth.
This is one of the most persistent, zombie-like myths in pediatric health. It just won't die. But we can definitively bury it right now.
Okay.
Position statements from major sports medicine bodies like the National Strength and Conditioning Association are crystal clear on this.
So lifting weights does not crush your growth plates.
Not even a little bit. In fact, properly supervised resistance training does the opposite. It increases bone mineral density.
Really?
Bones operate under Wolff's Law. They adapt to the stress placed on them. If you stress them safely, they get stronger and denser.
So where did the myth even come from? Was it just parents being overprotective?
It likely came from old anecdotal reports of kids using terrible form with maximum loads and suffering actual fractures. If you break a growth plate due to an accident, that can cause growth issues.
Ah, okay.
But the act of lifting weights? No. In fact, a study of 9 to 11-year-old boys showed that physical activity can actually modestly influence the timing of the growth spurt. It helps you reach that genetic potential. It doesn't hinder it.
So the gym is safe. The jungle gym hanging is useless for actual growth. That brings us to the fuel. If you're a parent or a teenager, the logic seems simple. I just need to eat more. More protein, more milk, more everything. Build the building faster.
And this is where we run into a really tricky concept called the Goldilocks zone.
Not too hot, not too cold.
Exactly. Let's talk about protein. In the U.S., we are obsessed with protein, but the data shows a U-shaped curve regarding growth. Obviously, if you are protein deficient, you will be stunted. That's a huge issue in developing nations.
Right, you need the bricks to build the wall.
But here is the nuance. A 2024 narrative review pointed out that excessive protein intake in high-income populations where kids are already getting plenty is linked to excess fat gain, not extra height.
And that leads us to probably the most counterintuitive finding in the research stack you sent me, the obesity paradox.
Yes.
Because logically, you'd think a bigger, heavier kid would grow faster, right?
They do grow faster. At first. This is crucial to understand. There's a fascinating longitudinal study out of Sweden that looked at BMI and height. They found that high BMI in childhood makes you taller initially.
Okay, so the heavy kids were the tall kids in 4th grade.
Yes. But remember our discussion about the door closing.
Uh-huh.
Fat tissue isn't just stored energy, it's biologically active. It produces hormones, including leptin, and it increases the conversion of other hormones into estrogen.
Ah, I see where this is going. More fat means more estrogen.
And more estrogen means early puberty. So these kids sprint off the starting line. They hit their growth spurt at age 10 or 11 instead of 13 or 14. It looks like they're going to be giants.
Right, but because they started early, their growth plates fuse early.
They stop the race while the other kids are still running.
Exactly. The study showed that these children often end up shorter, or just the same height as their peers, despite that early lead.
So bulking a kid up to make them grow is actually a strategy that completely backfires.
It creates a sprint when you want a marathon. The goal is to keep the growth window open as long as possible. A healthy weight does that. Obesity shuts it down.
Okay, let's look at the micronutrients. You see these supplements all over social media, height booster pills. Usually have zinc, calcium, vitamin A. Is there any real science there, or is it snake oil?
There is real science, but context is king. Let's look at a specific study on zinc supplementation in Thai school-age children.
Okay.
This was a randomized controlled trial. One group got a placebo, the other got 15 milligrams of zinc a day for 6 months.
And what happened?
The zinc group grew 5.6 centimeters on average, compared to 4.7 centimeters in the placebo group. Wait, nearly a full centimeter difference in 6 months? That's actually significant.
It is statistically significant. However, and this is the disclaimer that needs to be in neon lights, this effect is largely because zinc stimulates a hormone called IGF-1.
Yeah.
But this boost is most pronounced in children who are deficient in zinc.
So if you're already eating a balanced diet, taking mega doses of zinc won't make you an NBA center.
Exactly. The literature calls the effects on well-nourished kids trivial. It's like filling up a gas tank. If the tank is half empty, filling it helps the car go further. If the tank is already full, pouring more gas in just makes a mess. It doesn't make the car faster.
Okay, we've covered the gym, we've covered the kitchen. Now we need to talk about the one thing teenagers are famously good at, but usually at the wrong times: sleeping.
The silent engine of growth.
Why is sleep so critical? Is it just about conserving energy?
No, it's about hormone delivery. Growth hormone isn't released like a steady IV drip throughout the day. It's released in pulses. And the biggest, most massive pulse estimates say 70 to 80% of the total daily release happens during slow-wave sleep.
Deep sleep.
Yes, that deep, non-REM sleep that happens in the first half of the night.
So if a kid is pulling all-nighters, playing video games, or waking up every hour to check notifications,
They are literally missing the bus.
they are missing their growth hormones.
They're suppressing the signal, and there is data to back this up. A cohort analysis actually linked shorter sleep duration at age 1.5 to lower height by the time the kids hit school age.
That is wild. It's such a passive thing, just lying there, but it's doing the heavy lifting.
It is the foundation. You can have the best nutrition and exercise, but if you aren't getting that deep sleep, you are chemically limiting your potential.
All right, let's shift gears. We've done the lifestyle stuff, the natural route. Now I want to get into the deep dive territory of medical intervention. We're talking about when people want to bypass nature and use science to force the issue.
This is where we enter the realm of endocrinology and, frankly, some ethical gray areas.
Let's start with growth hormone therapy. We hear about this with athletes, but it's used for kids too.
It is. Now, it is FDA approved for specific conditions, things like Turner syndrome, chronic renal insufficiency, or Prader-Willi syndrome. These are kids who have a clear biological reason for not growing.
But what about the kid who is just short? No disease, just short parents, or just unexplainably short?
That's called idiopathic short stature, or ISS, usually defined as the bottom 1% of the population. And this is where it gets controversial.
Because you're treating a healthy child with a powerful drug.
Essentially. And the question parents have to ask is it worth it? We have studies tracking these kids after years of daily injections, and we're talking a shot every single day for 4, 5, 6 years. The mean gain in adult height is only about 4 to 7 centimeters.
So roughly 2, maybe 2.5 inches for years of shots. And I assume this isn't cheap.
We're talking tens of thousands of dollars a year, and it's not risk-free. Side effects can include intracranial hypertension, that's increased pressure inside the skull-slipped epiphysis, where the bone actually slips at the growth plate, and glucose intolerance.
That is a brutally high price to pay, physically and financially, for 2 inches. It really makes you wonder if the disability of being short is physical or if it's just about how society treats short people.
That is the ultimate question. But for parents desperate to buy time, there is another class of drugs that sounds even more sci-fi: aromatase inhibitors.
This goes back to our closing door analogy and estrogen, right?
Correct. Aromatase is the enzyme that creates estrogen. Aromatase inhibitors block that production. The logic is, if estrogen closes the door and we block the estrogen,
You keep the door open longer.
you keep the door open longer, you're chemically delaying the end of puberty. There was a randomized trial where they gave these inhibitors to boys who were also on growth hormone. They found the boys gained more predicted adult height because they stayed in that growth phase longer.
That sounds promising on paper, but I hear a however coming in your voice.
A big however.
Yeah.
Estrogen isn't just a door closer. It's crucial for health for bone density. If you block it for too long, you risk compromising the skeleton's strength. You might end up taller, but with more fragile bones.
Oh.
There are also concerns about metabolic side effects, lipids, insulin levels. This is largely experimental for height augmentation and really should be reserved for extreme cases.
It's high-stakes poker with your biology.
It really is. You're tweaking a very complex system.
So we've unpacked the biology, busted the myths, looked at the food, the sleep, and the heavy-duty drugs. Let's try to synthesize this for the listener. If someone stops you on the street and asks, how do I maximize my height? What are the 3 big takeaways?
Takeaway number 1, genetics hold the steering wheel. You have to accept that 60 to 80% of this is pre-programmed. You cannot turn a Mini Cooper into a monster truck, no matter what fuel you put in it.
I love that. Manage expectations. What's number 2?
Don't close the window early. This is the obesity piece. Maintaining a healthy weight prevents early puberty. You want to keep those growth plates open for as long as nature intended.
Right.
Stress and obesity are the enemies here because they speed up the clock.
And number 3?
Optimize, don't obsess. Sleep is non-negotiable for those GH pulses, fixed deficiencies. To realize that no supplement and no specific stretch is going to push you beyond your genetic ceiling. You're just trying to reach the ceiling, not break through the roof.
That's a great distinction, reaching potential versus exceeding potential. Now, before we let everyone go, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the apparent height cheat code. Because even if we can't grow the bone, we can still look taller, right?
Absolutely. This is the one thing everyone listening can do right now, for free. Most of us lose centimeters to slouching thoracic kyphosis, that hunchback from looking at our phones, and weak cores.
So the hanging from the bar thing doesn't grow bone, but posture exercises do help.
Core stability and thoracic extension exercises. They don't lengthen the femur, but they stop you from collapsing into yourself.
Yeah.
You can gain an inch just by standing the way your skeleton was designed to stand.
Yeah.
It signals confidence, which is usually what people want from height anyway.
The cheapest height hack there is, stand up straight.
It works.
This has been fascinating, but I want to leave the listeners with a final thought to chew on. We spend billions of dollars on growth hormones, supplements, and specialized shoes. We obsess over markings on a door frame. But as you said, maybe the problem isn't the biology.
It raises an important question about value.
Exactly. Is the value in the height itself, or is it in how we perceive it? Because at the end of the day, biology has limits. The growth plate's closed, the door shuts. But maybe our obsession says more about society than it does about science.
That is the real deep dive right there.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Deep Dive Lab today. If you enjoyed this breakdown of the biology of stature, please hit that subscribe button. We have plenty more curiosity-driven breakdowns coming your way.
Stay curious.
And stand tall. We'll see you next time.